Some conversations will be mind-blowing and you'll sit there and you'll have the most profound change.
Hello.
No, I pressed the magic button now.
Yeah, you did.
So there you go. I pressed the magic button that says,
Oh.
"Oh, we're at 52 conversations." So Lisa,
Hello.
who are you? Who are you? Where are you now? Who are you?
So I'm Lisa Ann Redfern, and I am living in the British Virgin Islands. So I live in the BVI and I've been here for about 15 years, but originally from East Yorkshire in England. And yeah, who am I? I am a training manager, and yeah.
How does that feel to say that?
It feels good. Feels good. Yeah.
Committed to it.
Committed to being a training manager. Yes.
There you go. Perfect. So we won't go into all of that here, but I mean, I kind of wanted people to listen to some of your story and your conversation, really, because, you know, you grew up in the UK and you have this story of how you set your mind, which is exactly what you do, having known you now as long as I have. You set your mind to do something, you're going to do it. And yeah. It might be a bit of a zigzag in some ways, there might be some detours, but you commit and that's it.
Yeah, definitely. I do have that tenacious kind of resilient. Once I put my mind to something, I will do it. Like it could be a whole round of circles up, down, but I will get there in my own way. Yeah, definitely.
And you will get there, and you will get there, and you will do exactly what you want to do. So you're in the BVIs.
Yes.
So you work for someone rather well known around the world.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Was that something that was always on your radar?
So I started work. Well, I started out as a no, never. I never thought I'd end up in the Caribbean, but I started out.
What did you want to do when you were a little girl? When you thought about, when I grow up, what do I want to be? Did you have an idea? Did you have a story? Because lots of people, as children, we have an idea what we want to be. Supposedly, I never had one, and I'm still thinking, oh, what do I want to be? Who knows?
Yeah.
Idea?
I absolutely knew 100% when I was little. I always had a life plan. I don't know where it came from, but I was always very driven, always had a life plan. I always knew what I was going to do. That life plan has definitely changed as I've gone through life. Yeah. But yeah, as I was a little girl, all I ever wanted to be was a beauty therapist, was a spa therapist. And I'd had a pedicure when I was really young. Very, very lucky. It wasn't the kind of thing that I got to do, but yeah, this one time I got a pedicure, and I just remember thinking, oh, I can do that. And from there, from the age of like 13, I knew that I wanted to be a beauty therapist. So, academically at school, I struggled. So for me to be a beauty therapist it just made sense. So I just worked out in 16, I trained to be a spa therapist. And then I always knew my dad traveled a lot, and he always told us stories about traveling. And that for me was like, I'm going to travel the world. That's what I want to do. I want to travel the world. So yeah, so I always had a game, always.
So I'm going to go back to something that you said there. So you said, when I was at school, I struggled academically. So being a beauty therapist made sense. So to my ears, that's kind of almost saying, well, I don't need to be academic, or I don't need to be smart to be a beauty therapist, which is of course not true.
Not true.
So I'm just picking up on that because other people might, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit like when people phone the doctors or something like that, and people say, I'm just the receptionist, as if that's a lesser than something that's actually vitally important. So I'm going to ask you to unpick that a little bit for me.
Unpick I always was very confident and very socially, like, not a problem. And like it wasn't just a case of just being a beauty therapist. For me, that was really awesome. And it was it was just my goal. But yeah, unpicking the academic side of it, I think sometimes when you do struggle academically, you you have this perception, right, that in the education world, the way that we grew up, that being clever was being good at maths and English. You know, in my eyes, being clever was
traditional things,
you know, which I struggled with. But being clever for me was walking into a room and owning a room and having a conversation with somebody,
which you do effortlessly and easily, right?
And for me, that I was like, how, you know, I think naturally and through my personality, that is what got me. I don't know, I was good with my hands, and I realized that the maths and the English was just a no-go. But everybody else, it's very interesting how that makes you feel when, you know, you're not very good at maths, you're not very good at English. So, you know, that, well, you should be. Do you know what I mean? And everyone was always surprised as well growing up, because they were like, well, you know, she's eloquent, and, you know, why is she not in the higher sets, and why and all of that, and that used to get to me a little bit, because people used to be so surprised that you know, I wasn't academically clever, because I could walk into a room and I could own it and just have a laugh, and, you know, all of that. So, but yeah,
it's interesting. So then the beauty therapy thing, and you ended up at Champneys as one of the youngest people being right? So how does that happen to someone who's not academic and who's not clever and is all of these things clearly? So how did that happen? Was that on purpose?
I was really lucky. I used to have a little Saturday job. So I used to work in a salon, and the spa manager there, actually, I'd just been home to the UK, and I saw her. And I'm talking back when I was like 16. And when I saw her, I said, you know what, if it wasn't for you helping me do the trade test the night before I went for my interview at Springs, you know, I might not be where I am right now.
That's cool. So,
yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, so I ended up going to Springs. It was either stay at home or apply for a health farm, and up north there's not many health farms, so I went further afield. So I went into the Midlands and worked for Champneys Springs. And I got there at the age of 18, and by the age of 21 I was a premier therapist, which basically meant, you know, you organized the bookings of the guests that were coming, you organized their experiences, you did their treatments, and it was a real experience. So that's where my first experience of luxury hospitality kind of ignited. So
you were straight into that, and then you end up.
I got bored. I was like, oh, and I remember I picked up the phone to my mum, and my mum was like, I was like, Mum, I'm bored. I'm fed up of going to work, and I'm fed up of coming home. I love the job, but I just need more. There's more out there. There's so much more out there, and I did not know what that more was, but I knew there was something more. Cool. So it was either, right, I want to travel the world. My dad worked on cruise ships. I've heard his stories. I'm going to apply for cruise ships. So I applied to Steiner, and then I applied to Virgin. So of course, at the time, Virgin was huge. So this was back in 2003, 2004. Virgin was huge. The airlines was, you know, booming. Everyone was talking about Virgin girls and the whole cabin crew experience, and you could be an in-flight beauty therapist. And I was like, how innovative, how funky. That company is for me. Like,
absolutely. And you would own that. You would absolutely own doing that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah. And I went down to do my interview, and because applying as well, like thousands of people applied. So I was lucky enough to get an interview, and you don't normally, you know, you have to go through 2 or 3 interviews to actually get in. But I remember driving down to Gatwick to the office used to be in Hawley, and I remember driving down there and being like, wow, this is amazing. And just as I was like driving down, this Virgin Atlantic airplane just flew across, landing, and I just remember being like, oh, this is awesome. And then went through the interview stage and was lucky enough to get it. But during that phase, we, in the induction, you know, there was this whole video it was video and this whole video of basically how you could work in different places around the Virgin Group, and one of them was, you know, all the different hotels. So I just looked at it and was like, do you know what, that is where I'm going to be. And it was in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
That's what I'm doing. That's where I'm going to go. Yeah.
So was your experience as an in-flight beauty therapist as you thought it was going to be?
Oh, I've never been asked that question before, actually. Yes, it was. It was actually. Yeah, exactly. It was, the picture was painted perfectly. So the whole phase that you went through, and then getting on the flights, and you were buddied up with someone at first, and then the whole training to that as well, because it's intense. You have to be cabin crew. I've never done such intense training in my whole life.
I was going to say, because you're not really just going to be a beauty therapist in that role, are you?
No, you have to know exactly every single piece of equipment on the aeroplane, where they are, the locations of everything, and the way that they train you to do that is pretty insane. It's quite intense. So yeah, it was it was awesome.
And that also meant, though, that you are academic.
Yeah, the style of training,
the learning,
yeah,
taking it in.
Learn it, take it in, yeah. But it was all very practical. It was all very visual,
right.
And it was drummed into you day by day, week by week. So yeah, but yeah, to remember that is pretty insane. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I mean, you just flew around the world for, seeing lots of different destinations.
How long did you do that for?
I did that for 2 years.
Did
that for 2 years. Yeah.
And have you got any crazy stories that you're allowed to share?
I love the way you say that.
What was the most bizarre thing that you thought, oh my god, for real? Because there must be stories from that kind of thing.
Oh, amazing stories. Yeah, I mean, I remember my first flight. I'd never been to America before, and those were, I remember that sometimes you could sit on the flight deck, and as you were landed, and I landed into Boston, and I just remember as I was landing into Boston and the lights, and all I could think was it the Bee Gees song? I think it was. All the lights went down in Massachusetts, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So yeah, and we used to do Hong Kong Sydney's, where we traveled to Hong Kong for a couple of nights and go to Sydney for a night and then back, and that for me was the most magical experience. Hong Kong, loved Hong Kong. Yeah.
See, all these things, all these insights and all this travel that you were gaining when you said before that you thought, oh, when you were young, I want to travel, I want to see places. So that was kind of your start. So then what led you to end up where you are now? Was that purposeful?
100%. And I think that is what I've always done. I've seen something, had a goal, and done it. And people have always, my closest friends, and I think those are the people that know you the best, the ones that are in your circle that trust you, have always said, when you've seen something, you've always gone for it and you've always got it. And mindset's a huge part of that. But having a goal. Yeah, I mean, I knew I was going to come to the Caribbean. There was no doubt in my mind. I was like, that's where I want to be. And that's where I want to be. I mean, I only thought I was going to be here for a year, but 15 years later, I'm still here. So yeah. So the life
15 years later.
So,
yeah. So in terms of it being the Caribbean, though, what was it that it's literally, because it's a Caribbean island in the middle of nowhere, and there's sun and there's sea? What was it? Or was there more to it?
You know what it was? It's that it doesn't happen a lot in your life, but sometimes when you get to a place and you just feel home.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it just feels right, and you just know. And I remember the first day that I stepped onto the island, and I remember walking up a set of steps and thinking I was only supposed to be there a year, right? Okay. And that was it. So I was supposed to be it, but I remember in my heart of hearts going, ooh, I'm gonna be here a long time.
Cool.
So I think I just connected with the place, and I think yes, the sun, the water, but I just felt like, I was from a small town in East Yorkshire, northeast of England. I was from a small community, and I think living in the islands, and I've never been a city girl, and I think the small community just worked for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it is very, very community led. So when you first got there, you were doing the spa therapy.
Yeah, so spa, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've changed my career like 3 times in 15 years, which
Well,
has
you
been
need to share your growth on that, because for people listening, they're sort of going, so she said she was a spa therapist, and right at the beginning she told us she's a training manager. So how does that happen?
Yeah, how does it happen, Janice? I mean, when you think about it, so spa therapist, I walk into a spa, and again, it's like walking into a room and owning it. So I go back to that, what that magic is. And I'd worked in luxury hospitality in the the spas in the UK. I then went to work on the airlines, upper class cabins, massaging people at 35,000 feet.
Yeah.
Again, delivering an upper class service, and then stepping into this amazing island. And the spa, I loved it, but it wasn't just spa. We were hosting as well, so there was a mixture of working not just in the spa, but delivering service and food service and drinks and cocktails and everything. So our job wasn't just to do one thing. So it was, again, this host theme is just kind of,
it was inching its way into you.
Yeah, and so I worked at the spa and then became spa manager as the islands grew and as the business grew, and so I became the spa manager for a while, and I just kept stepping more and more into the guest experience and into how to create a magical guest experience. So yeah, I then had the opportunity to step into a guest services manager role. So I became a guest service manager.
What did that teach you? What did that teach you?
I mean, if anyone said change your career and do something different and just go for it, I'd say definitely yes before I would have said yes. But it's really good to do some work on yourself and learn some stuff and really know what it is you're stepping into. Maybe not always, but I think if I'd have had a little bit more insight, would have definitely helped. But again, sometimes when you don't know stuff, you just have a completely different swing of it, and I think you can throw other people off and help to make other people think outside the box and think a bit differently. So that was an incredible learning curve. Learning completely different, because I was doing events management. I was managing a big team. I was creating standards and an incredible guest experience. So yeah, it was huge, actually.
A full-on experience. So I want to go back, and I'm gonna be really deliberate in my questioning for you.
Oh, I love your question.
You talk about being able to go into a room and owning it, right?
Yeah.
So if you were going to bottle that and give the recipe, the prescription for that to people, what is that?
What is that? Walking into a room and owning it.
What has to go into it? What kind of personality traits do you have to have oodles of to be able to just do that? Because it's like people will look at me and they think that I'm confident, that I'm outspoken, that I'm all these things, but I'm not that.
No.
I walk into a room and I want to be on the side of the room, right? Or I can go and train in front of a room, and that's cool, but like in a social, like the way that you are, that's not me at all.
No.
And the social side of it, I want to be like the wallflower almost. You could say to me, go and stand on a stage and talk to 200 people, and I go, yeah, cool, I can do that.
Yeah.
But if you want me to be this social other thing, I'm kind of like, oh no, that's not me. So what is it that goes into that prescription of being that person? Because literally you walk into a space and it's like, yeah, Lisa's here, and it's the smile, it's your energy, but what goes into that? And if it's all natural, how can we distill it so anyone listening can say, I want some of what Lisa's got?
I think a part of it is natural. I think, most of it is natural, just being really comfortable with who you are and what you look like in front of people, and not worrying about what you say.
Yeah.
Because if it's the right intentions, if your intention is to walk into a room and meet people and have conversations and learn from other people, then naturally you can't change. It's authentic. It's and then people are drawn to someone
Absolutely.
who,
Well, they're drawn to the vibe and the energy, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when you stand on a stage in front of 200 people, you can do that. You're going to be your complete self, but you may not want to just walk around a room and meet loads of different people. And,
absolutely. And that's exactly me. I'm like, no, I don't need to do that.
Yeah, I don't need to do that. And that's Janice.
Yeah.
I have to work really hard when I stand in front of a stage and talk to loads of different people. I can do it, but it's hard. Even talking on a video screen in an interview, it's like, whoa.
It's really interesting, though, isn't it? How
Yeah.
our intricacies come out. But you see, a lot of these skills are trainable, right? We know that we can help people to change these things.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What are your tips for people? Because there must have been certain times where you thought, man, I need to be a bit better at that, or I need to be more comfortable with this. What do I need to do?
100%. And I think having someone else as well to help you. So I think I've often found, I'm really interested in this whole hosting and this how you walk into a room and own it. And some people just, it's that being observant, being very observant and self-aware how you show up. And I think I would say to someone else, like, if I've worked with people and worked in the field and done coaching on the floor, and it's been with that person and observing them, and then afterwards reflecting and just kind of asking the right questions. What did you see? How did it feel? What would you have done differently? And I think that helps. But I think it's finding that what it is you're interested in talking about with people. Do you know what I mean? Like it's going, actually, if I've got something that's interesting to say, find something that you're confident with and that's interesting,
and then just go with it.
And go with it. And asking questions. I think that's just that is the key and the be all, is just asking questions. If you don't know what to say, question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's true. And it's about how we can create comfort from discomfort.
Yeah.
And what we have to do, and calibrating and understanding that for ourselves as well. So when so exactly as I said, I know what I'm really comfortable at, and I know what I'm kind of like, that's not for me kind of thing. Equally, I know if I had to flex that muscle, I can, and I can do it because I have to, but it's not where I would be drawn to go.
No, and flexing that muscle is the hardest thing. And I've been in so many situations where I've got to really show up now and not necessarily be me. If someone's saying something that isn't what you agree with, or I don't know, a guest complaint, or someone who's just challenging you, that you've got to step into your space, and you've got to, say something that isn't natural in you. And I think it's really hard to do that, but once you've done it once, it's then a little bit easier. You've been in situations sometimes that you don't want to be in. You've got to really dig deep and find that strength. But when you find that strength, the empowerment from that, it sets you free. You start to feel free, and then you realize that it's people's judgment. So it's not when you walk into a room and you're doing all of that. It's like people will judge, but it's how you view that and what you do with it.
Yeah, and whether you decide you need their validation, right, or not. And if it just doesn't,
if not, let it go. I mean, with me, I've been in situations where I haven't been able to let it go for weeks, for months, for years, but it takes practice. And you're the only one that has the power to do that. So
but that's the true self-exploration of self, though, right? So that we can peel back our little edges of discomfort and have a look at it. And sometimes it's like, oh no, I'm just going to ignore that for a little bit more. But ultimately, it's always going to be there if you do that. So it's much easier in a way to just rip off the plaster and go, oh fuck, what should I do now? And I think we're kind of taught to be afraid of doing that. And actually it should be the other way around. It should be,
you
have to just do it.
It's, it's that thing. It's better to, I mean, in some situations it is better to not say anything at all, but there is that perception that but you do have to face things, and go straight into it, and it builds resilience, right? Builds resilience.
Yeah. And I also think often that's where you find your gifts, right? That's where you find your gifts, and the things that we perceive to be a weakness actually can be a strength. And it's just, how do I flip that? How do I flip that? And how can I use
challenges, like like I say, the freedom you get once you overcome them. And I think it's anyone that's facing a challenge, something really difficult, something really hard, like it can be quite natural to avoid it. But it's so much more freeing if you face up to it, and it's so much easier to deal with. If you face it. So if you're petrified of walking into a room and what people think, and just be true to yourself. Think about what it is that you love, how you feel, and ask questions, and own it. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned, is that I own who I am.
Absolutely.
No one else. And if they've got a problem with it, then that's up to them.
Perfect. That's perfectly said, isn't it?
I love it though, because someone said to me the other day, they said I came out of a meeting and I said, what do you need from me? What more do you need from me? What less do you need from me? Like, is there more can I be doing? Anything that I shouldn't be doing? What do you need? And they were like, just don't change.
And you were like, okay.
And I just turned around and went, there's no problems with that.
Thank you very much.
That's not
my job is done.
I won't be changing.
Or you will be changing, but in a level that's like intrinsic versus the way.
I'll grow.
Absolutely. We'll continue the growth mindset. So I want to go back.
Can you hear me? Because the rain's just started raining, Caribbean rain.
I can hear you, and I can't hear the rain yet. But I might do soon. So you can't. That's the rain has done this on purpose, because I often talk about Antigua. Lifestyle there. So let's talk a little bit about the beauty of the BVIs. Equally, the flip sides to the beauty of Caribbean islands is they're not always beautiful and lovely, and it's not all paradise, is it? So kind of share some of the, because obviously there's the beauty of you're surrounded by this fantastic ocean and the sunshine. So what's an average day off for you, for people listening, so they can go, oh God, we hate Lisa now.
I mean, they'll be like, oh yeah, but she lives in the Caribbean, so no, I mean, to be honest, an average day, like the island's only 25 minutes long in a car journey, so I would say that we yes, the sun's shining, yes, it's beautiful, it's small, and I'd say, and like I say, that lifestyle does suit me, else I wouldn't have been here for so long, but it does have its limitations, right? You can get island fever. It's not like you can just go to any shop and get anything, or go and do something completely different, meet a different set of people, and I would say that's probably the only thing. And the sunsets are amazing, but they sunset at like 6-7 o'clock at night,
and then it's dark.
But so I think there are challenges in that side of it.
So that brings us kind of nicely into island fever through the pandemic and COVID.
So I mean,
people think we're all listening from different parts of the world, and we all have our versions of what pandemic was like and lockdowns to start with, but the BVI lockdown was pretty extreme at the beginning, right?
Hard, it was very brutal, it was very hard, and I think the one thing that the pandemic has connected us all in a way that I think's, it's amazing. It's connected us all very much in a virtual world like this, which has its challenges and has its absolute pluses, and without this virtual world I would have found it very, very difficult to get through. But the BVI did go into a full-on lockdown, So it was, you're not allowed out of your house. We went into lockdown for 2 weeks, and there were certain days you're allowed out to shop and so forth. And it did lock down for longer than that. And then it went for curfews, so they would lock down in an afternoon. And I chose to I was house sitting for a friend to look after their property, which I chose to do because I've got 2 dogs. So I live on my own, and I thought it was a good move to do that, because it was a bigger home. They've got a bit of land back, so for me, I thought that was a great thing. But I went on my own, and none of us knew what we were going into.
Absolutely, no idea.
And I that being on my own for such long periods of time it was soul searching. I learned a lot.
It was hard. We had some conversations through that time, right?
Hard. Yeah. It was really hard, and connecting with family and friends constantly is what got me through it. But it did make me think about other people, those people on there who are on their own, always, or at certain times of their lives, pandemic or not. So it gave me a different understanding and empathy for that. But I'm
just going to interrupt. I recorded a conversation with a friend, Nancy, the other day, and she's gone down this rabbit hole all about friendship, and actually about how hard it is to make friends as you get older and different things. But obviously throughout the pandemic, loneliness, the amount of people that actually recognise that they've been lonely almost for life, and then this just made it even worse.
And made they realise how isolated they were.
Absolutely.
And I think it makes you, well, I can't speak for everyone else when I say it makes me feel the human connection. You've got, I love the whole psychological safety and everything, and those human basic needs, but the human connection, I think, is more vital than anything. We can't do anything without each other, as in,
Absolutely.
We need each other to grow businesses, to have connections, to love, to human connection, I think is and that was the big missing part for me, is like through a computer screen you cannot feel energy.
Absolutely. You can read it, but you can't necessarily feel it.
So the BVI went to lockdown, and you've got this island. And I remember when we were partially coming out of lockdown, mental health and wellness has been a huge, I think it's always been a stigma in the world. It definitely is in the BVI. I feel like for the first time in the 15 years I've been here, that there is a real community effort to highlighting that it's okay to sometimes not be okay. And I think, getting up and moving was a big part. I'd been stagnant.
Run with Redders.
Big stagnant for so long. And I was like, and I'd been locked up, and I was thinking about psychological safety, emotional intelligence, how people connect with others in good ways, in kind ways, in bad ways, whatever ways. And I remember that we were allowed out in the mornings, and I just went hiking. And I used to run a few years back, and I went back into it, and I just thought, I'm just going to hike. And that's when I started thinking, when we're not moving physically, sometimes your brain, or my brain, gets stuck. And just walking and talking to myself, to the camera, I found that I just was able to kind of be a bit freer, and started understanding things and picking things apart in my own mind, and going, what is it that make me tick? And the most amazing thing about going out and walking, because obviously here the best part of the day is either late at night or first thing in the morning, is that there was other people walking, there's other people hiking, and it is quite a thing to do out here. A lot of people wake up in the morning and they go for a walk, but I've seen it more now than ever. And the human connection you got from someone walking past you going, morning, hello, how's you been? Are you okay? How are you feeling? And you could just see in their faces, just to see another human was like, oh my goodness, we've all got this common thing that we've been missing.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And I think that's a really important important thing, sorry, for
No,
us
no.
to make sure that we hold on today and tomorrow and next day is that when we are out on the street, you can say hello, how are you? And you can actually acknowledge these people. We don't have to go back to the way that we were before, where we're all so bloody busy in our bullshit that we're running in here, to actually really notice people again.
Yeah.
And really pay attention to them.
Pay attention. And I just think, you know, it's really nice to see people up and moving and for their own mental well-being. And I think, you know, yeah, it's been really important.
It's tough, isn't it, as we think about how we went into the beginning of this pandemic to where we are now, and as the world continues to evolve with different strains and restrictions and things. So in terms of your own psychological well-being, you hadn't been off the island for how long? And you've just moved back to the UK?
Yeah, it was nearly 2 years.
And how did that feel towards getting to the point of needing to get off the island?
Oh my goodness. So it's been 2 years, and I'm close to my mum, dad, my brother, and I go home once a year, and my parents come out here once a year, and that was tough. That was tough on their part as well, because I think in the UK, we were lucky to still have the sunshine, whereas in the UK, in most parts of that, didn't always have the sunshine, and you're in your house and what have you. So it's been tough, but yeah, it'd been 2 years, and I was so ready. I think sometimes you get wrapped up so much in what's happening in your world, and you focus on a lot of it's really easy, it's infectious to get drawn into negative stuff, and people are going through stuff. It's not been an easy 2 years. Everyone's drained and tired. They're COVID drained, they're zoomed out. Like it's been tough, and everything else that comes on that, whatever their world.
Our own bandwidth has been stretched and stretched and stretched, hasn't it? And it's like we haven't had that elasticity left in us.
No, and it gets to a point where you have to just disconnect. And I think the best thing that you can do is go to a place where it's out of a different change of scenery, helps your brain not be able to recognize things, and helps it relax because it's kind of looking at new things and taking different things in. And so I think it was really it's if you've got the opportunity and you're able to, because not everybody is to get yourself out and just kind of change your scenery for a bit. So yeah, I think
so. Leaving felt like a real flight of freedom.
Oh, it's amazing. And and there was a fear as well, like we're quite lucky in the BVI because we're quite small. I mean, COVID did hit really throughout the pandemic. We didn't really get COVID, and it was only actually a few weeks ago after we've opened up the BVI, and they've been open in a year now, the cases did rise, and it got really scary because it's right on your doorstep. It's and now it's on everyone's doorstep, but so when it got to us, so then it was going to the UK, and there was a fear factor of once we get it, like I don't want to take it back to my family, and what's it like flying on a plane, what's it like going into a shop, and I think just going home now, I felt like the UK were in a lot better place. It was really nice to see other people feeling free again, because they haven't in the last couple of years. That you can walk down the street, you can go into shops, and there's still that fear there, but the freedom that it felt to get on a plane and to go and connect with those people who bring the best out of you and the worst out of you, those all good stuff. It's grounded. Just needed to grow grounded.
So with that grounding and that reconnection to home, to your family, to your people, what's that brought back freshness for you to take into the next months there?
So I came back with, and it's really easy to do it when you've stepped out and then coming back, because there is a lot of stuff, there is a lot of stress going on, but when you step out, you get stronger. And you come back, and right now I feel really strong, and I'm coming back going, I've got to find my anchors, my things that keep me going. It gives me energy, which is Run with Redders, which is keeping my lovely circle of amazing friends that give me amazing energy, and that. And I think it's home into that, and actually thinking about those things that make you you, and holding on to them, and getting into and not getting dragged down. So I think it gives energy to other people, and that gives them a vibe, because I think you've always said state is infectious, and you know, when someone's down, if someone's a little bit positive, it's like, oh, so yeah, just kind of, I feel like I've managed to just bring a bit of freshness back. So but I would really recommend to anyone, if they're at that point, doesn't matter what anyone else is telling you, whether it's your boss, whether it's your family, like, or whatever, if you need to take time out for you, then just do it.
Absolutely. I think we've all if we're really smart, we can now calibrate to everything that COVID taught us. Yeah. And then we've just got to lean into what feeds us, what is good for us, and definitely do that away from the stuff that's other people's drama, other people's toxicity, other people's stuff that actually doesn't have to impact us. We can just go, no, that's not for me. I don't need to see, feel, or hear. That's not my thing. Yeah. And I think,
you know, the intention to be kind and caring is there. Then, you know, don't get dragged down by, like you say, the toxicity of others.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you to give the audience that's listening 3 top tips on how to literally just go for the things that they want and get them. You know, what would you distill the 3 things? Because you've used the word tenacious, goals, driven. What would your 3 tips be to leave them thinking about, you know, if they're sat there thinking, man, I've always wanted to go to, I don't know, France, Germany, wherever, Australia, when we can get on planes and we can go, because they've always had this thing they've wanted to do. What do they need to have to do that?
I think, from my own experience, is if you want something, you've got the goal, you want it, you have to commit to it. So focus on it, commit to it. I'm teaching myself lessons even now, because even when I say it, I'm thinking of other areas in my life where I'm like, just do it, Lisa, just get on with it. You know? So when you say it, like, you know, your actions have to align with what you're saying. And yeah, trust yourself that you're doing the right thing, because no one else, who is anyone else to tell you what your path is? No one. You know, your family, your friends, other people around you might have a vision for you, but you are the only person who knows your vision. And it's taking a leap of faith. So it's taking that leap of faith, I think. So yeah, being tenacious, resilient, and taking a leap of faith. Yeah.
And look where it can lead you, right?
Yeah. I know, how ironic. Struggled academically through school, and now I'm a training manager. So, or not ironic.
It's exactly about the things that you said though, and it's brilliant. So it's been really good chatting to you. And maybe another conversation further down the line about some other bits and pieces. We shall see, because there's always things to chat about, right, and share.
Oh, so, absolutely, definitely. Yeah, thank you, Janice, and thank you for everything that you do. Goodness me, you're so inspiring.
Well, back at you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been lovely chatting.
Lovely chatting.
Okay, take care. Bye.